I would say it's really our happy place. We love this home. It's a little bit more feminine and traditional than any of our previous homes, but I sort of embrace that direction, and there isn't a room in this house that isn't lived in. You may see my daughter scooting down any one of the rooms. We run around and play everywhere, and she just has learned to live in all of the different rooms, and we love it. We're so happy here. I'm Paloma Contreras. I'm an interior designer, and you're at my home in Houston, Texas. We had been looking for a home for over a year, and finally I had gotten to a place where I was like, I think I just need to build something because I'm not finding anything that I like. And then our realtor told us this house was going to come on the market. So when I walked in, I really very quickly saw what the vision for this place could be. It had a lot of potential. It ticked most of the boxes for what we were looking for, and it was a little bit of a project, but nothing that we couldn't handle and nothing terribly crazy. I do think houses dictate what they need in a sense, whether that be the furniture plan or the color palette because the light reads a certain way in that space, or the architecture is very defined. And then it's a matter of bringing together those pieces that add interest. I always start with a traditional sort of classic core because good things don't go out of style for a reason. They've been around for a long time because they just work. And then we build upon that. In general, this house is definitely more feminine and more colorful than my last house. Maybe it's having a little toddler-aged daughter. I wanted a feminine moment. I really wanted to go more traditional, have fun with color, take some risks, and just have fun with this house, do things that I wouldn't have done otherwise. But it still feels like me and like a continuation of our story as a family. I really do believe the most successful rooms are those that bring together seemingly disparate pieces or periods and have a little bit of tension in them. It's just that unexpected element, and that can come as a result of an interesting texture. It could be a graphic piece of modern art. It could be a sculpture or a modern light fixture in an otherwise very classic room. Just sort of things that add layers and interest and make you feel maybe slightly uncomfortable. So I think blending together pieces from different periods and styles results in rooms that are just more layered and interesting and overall more timeless because they aren't one note and they aren't solely hitting on, one sort of look. My house really is a place where I've brought together all of the different things that I love. And in this living room, for instance, the color palette is purposely soft. There's a lot of feminine and more classic or traditional details. But I think what really gives the room energy and interest is the addition of the modern things in here. And that sort of counteracts the femininity and the light palette. It keeps the room from sort of floating away. I would say the design rule that I most adhere to is scale. The scale has to be right for not only the composition of a room, but the individual pieces. I also think it's always more important if you sort of have to figure out whether to go larger or smaller, always err on the side of larger. You never want a piece to feel too skimpy, for a rug to be too small, for anything to just feel like it's kind of too wimpy for the space. I think if you have to go bigger, that's the better choice. And it's kind of also my favorite rule to break too, because sometimes putting something in a room that is sort of a weird scale, like it's slightly too big, or maybe it's a small piece of art over a large piece of furniture, that can be that sort of the tension, that unexpected piece, that unexpected thing in a space. I'm very much a rule follower in life, but in design, I really do think that if you love it enough, it's gonna work. And at the end of the day, it's your home and you should love everything in it. And who cares if somebody else thinks it's against the rules. Textiles can do so much for a space. They can add color, texture, personality, a real point of view, and I think they're one of the most important sort of foundational things in a house. It's where I begin every design for any space. We initially, begin with the furniture layout, but from there, it's always textiles first. And I usually will find a hero textile that I'm inspired by for that particular room and then build my palette from there. But there's not much that you can't achieve with great textiles. Sometimes I think it's as impactful to use fewer patterns as it can be to really go the maximalist route. But I like for my eye to have a place to rest and to have some white or solid lack of pattern to balance everything else out. In our guest room in particular, it's a large guest room, so I wanted to add something to give dimension to the space. So we did this sweet ticking stripe Schumacher wallpaper on the walls, and then kept everything else very sort of crisp and light and fresh. There's a really pretty floral on the bed and on the bench cushions. And then the Roman shades in there are just an ivory linen, so super crisp with a beautiful tape trim. The ultimate mark of a great home is how it makes the people who live in its walls feel. I think home is such an intangible thing, and surely it means different things for different people. To me, it's a sense of comfort, it's familiarity, it's love, it's a sense of joy, and those are all things that we feel in this house. You know, the irony is people always say like home is where your family is. It's so true. You know, once you start to take your family, like if you've recently moved, you take your family out of a house, you start to box things up, you see the furniture exit the space, and suddenly, even though it was your home, it doesn't really feel that way anymore. It's just a shell. But it's truly the people and the things that have meaning to you that make it feel like home.